everybody, and welcome back to TCG Madness, and we are back at it building you guys some budget deck profiles for Star Wars Unlimited. Today's deck is going to be featuring Rey more than a scavenger. This is a mono blue deck, and this is a leader from set 2 Star Wars Unlimited Shadows of the Galaxy. This will be a budget deck profile that will be a budget of under $40, so you can get this deck right now for under $40. Of course, prices can be fluctuating at the moment because set 2 still fairly new, so some of these cards are pretty cheap, but you never know. Maybe if someone breaks a certain card, you may see a slight increase. I also will tell you too, right now with the deck builder that I'm currently using, it does not have the correct prices for set 2, so at the end of the video I'll tell you exactly what this deck is going to run you, or at least not exactly, but at least a good estimate, like between a certain amount right now, because prices are fluctuating with set 2 still hitting everybody's hands, so prices are not going to be 100% accurate. I will give you guys a very rough estimate actually at the end of this video, so excuse my correction. But before we go any forward, if you guys can just do me the really big favor right now, please hit that like button. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. Comment down below too what deck maybe you guys would like to see next, or if you would like to see this deck also be created into a Twin Suns deck with set 2 dropping. We're still not seeing a whole lot of play for Twin Suns, so I got a couple of comments about that in my last deck profile builds. If you guys want to see a Twin Sun format of this type of deck, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this deck. So this deck will feature the leader Rey more than a scavenger. This is a mono blue deck. A little bit of strengths and weaknesses of this deck. The strengths of this deck, it can buff up some of your weaker units, and I'll show you how, which the leader kind of does all that. And for this build, we really just synergized around the entire leader and what it's capable of doing and what it does best. And I'll go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the leader itself, which is Rey. So that's actually the back part. We're going to go take a look at the front part, because they actually, believe it or not, the front is actually pretty powerful just in and of itself. So the front of this ability is actually pretty powerful. It does say, for 1 resource, tap Rey and give an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. If you don't know what an experience token is, that pretty much gives something +1/+1. So you're giving something 1 power and 1 health to a unit that has 2 power or less. Key note here does not say like anything that has a resource cost of X or anything. Those is specifically to the power. As long as it's 2 or less, that's all that this thing matters, which is actually a pretty good ability. When you flip Rey over, which you have to have 6 resources in order to do it, she has Restore 3, which is an excellent ability. You guys know I love Restore. Restore to me is one of the underrated abilities, because that really just gives you more chances to really beat down your opponent. You're healing yourself more than you're taking in damage, or at least countering that kind of damage. That kind of works really well, and it does set up for that longer playability, which Rey does really well. Also has 2 on attack. You may give an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. So just like the front, only without paying for the resource, you just gotta attack with Rey. Rey is a 2/6 force fringe unit, which is really good. So that's the leader right there. Pretty good leader, pretty decent capabilities. Again, this is not going to be a meta deck. This is going to be a pretty niche, fun build. And of course, at the very end too, I'll show you guys at least 10 cards you can add to this deck that will really give it that much needed firepower. However, you'll be breaking the bank once you add these cards, and I'll show you exactly what those cards are at the end of this video. So for the base, again, mono blue. So we're going with a very niche base here. We're going with Capital City for 30 health. Pretty standard. Go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of the deck itself. We're going ahead and kicking off with Yoda Old Master for a 3-drop 2/4. So there it is, this is a really good unit you can give experience token to, because he's a 2/4. He also has Restore 2, and he also has, when defeated, choose any number of players, which you're pretty much just going to choose yourself. They each draw a card. Love Yoda because it does everything that Rey pretty much does outside of drawing you a card, right? He has the Restore. He's a unit that's power of 2 or less, so you can give him experience, and he's a 3-drop, so you can get him out pretty early. Of course, I love Yoda. I think it's one of the most staples in a blue deck. You're definitely going to want to run 3 copies of this card. Another one is a fan favorite from set 1 as well. It's a 2-drop Restored Arc 170, 2/3, Restore 1. Again, another good 2 or less power, that you can give an experience token to. If you give an experience token to, this is going to be a 3/4 unit. The whole idea behind giving these experience tokens to is to force your opponent to basically have to deal with these problems. Either they're going to have to use removal, or they're going to have to attack you. So by doing that, you really are going to set yourself up. And as long as you're restoring, man, you're really going to set up for that long playability. Once you get to that 6-7 resources, you should be playing some certain cards, which I'll show you those cards, that really are going to allow you to really just seize the game and win. Next up is another great card. This is Wilderness Fighter. 3-drop, 2/4. So again, sticking under that 2 or less power. And it has Shielded. Shielded's great because pretty much, again, it gives you the ability, like, your opponent's going to have to deal with it. Like, if they have to hit you, that unit's still going to stay on the field. That your opponent's going to have to smack into it one more time. If you give it experience token, that's going to be a 3/4 that has Shielded. Pretty powerful unit there. Next up is a equipment Jedi Lightsaber. A 3-drop Jedi Lightsaber. And it has, if attached unit is a forced unit, it gains on attack. Give the defender -2/-2 for this phase. It also gives the unit a +3/+3. I love this equipment because we do have a couple of good force units. Of course, Rey being the most obvious, and you also have Yoda too. So, and again, if you're fortunate enough to put this on Yoda, Yoda's going to be really powerful. If you get Rey out with the Yoda, you can then reasonably see yourself restoring yourself for 5 on one turn. Pretty powerful there. Love this card. Definitely need 3 copies of this. Another one is actually, a coin flip for this one, but it is cost efficient and it's cheap, so it does fit the budget deck profile. It's Resilient, another upgrade, 1-drop, but here's the kicker. It gives you 0 power, which is perfect, +3 health. So pretty much what you're doing is you want to put this on someone who is weak, or even put it on Rey if you want Rey to live a little bit longer. By doing that, you really are giving that unit much needed health, and if you obviously you have no power with this card, so you can slap it on a Yoda. I mean, what is Yoda? 4 health, right? Yeah, Yoda has 4 health, 2 power, so if you put this on Yoda, Yoda is now a 2/7, then you buff it up with an experience token. You can see how this can kind of get out of hand pretty quickly. Resilient, very good card, and it also synergizes with Rey very, very well. Next up is Wing Leader. It's a 2/1. When played, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly rebel unit. There aren't a lot of cards that hand out experience tokens that are in blue. This card does do it. We don't have a lot of rebel units. Most of your space units are rebel units, so pretty much this is going to go hand in hand with your space units. Again, something that kind of synergizes around Rey. We would like it to be, obviously, give maybe 1 experience token to just any unit. To me, that would be much better, but still a pretty good card in and of itself. Cost efficient, and it's cheap. Fits that budget deck profile. 2 copies of that one. Next up is from the new set. It's a 2-drop Gray Squadron Y-Wing for a 1/3, and it has on attack. An opponent chooses a unit or a base they control, you may deal 2 damage to it. Again, it's a rebel unit, it's a space unit. We needed some cost-efficient space units. This kind of fits the bill. It's not perfectly synergized. There are maybe some better cards you could pick, but this is the best that I could find. Next up is also from the new set. This is a 3-drop Twin Pod Cloud Car. 2/2, restore 2. Again, fits that blue mold by giving you restore. Anything you can do to just, keep gaining yourself more health by restoring and healing your base is just going to set you up for those long play abilities. What you're trying to do with this deck too is just get all the way to turn 6 and 7. By then, you really should be winning the game. You should be able to play some big cards and be able to swing in with Rey and some other cards that I'll show you and be able to swing for game. Of course, I will be showing you guys some gameplay of this deck later this weekend, so look out for those videos when they drop. Next up is also 1 copy of Second Chance, which is from the new set. It's a mono blue card. It's a 4-drop 0/0. Pretty much what this does, though, is attached unit gains when defeated for this phase. This unit owners may play it from their discard pile for free. This is a $10 card, so only 1 copy of this. This really could, you can put it on something that you, maybe if it dies, you're like, okay, I get it right back out of my discard for free. It pretty much, again, does exactly what it says. It gives another unit a second chance to live, which is what you're going to need. If you're really in a pinch, you're like, man, I just need this card to last. But if my opponent deals with it, at least by giving it this, I have it around for another turn. It won't work with your leader, but you can put it on some other cards, maybe like Nemia Outpost Constables. A 4-drop for 2/6 with Sentinel. The big thing about this, it has Sentinel, so your opponent has to deal with it or use removal. And it only has 2 power. You can give this an experience token, and now it becomes a 3/7 with Sentinel. Pretty powerful just in and of itself right there, once you at least add that experience token. Next up, 2 copies of Rickety Quadrumper. This is also from the new set. It's a 2-drop 1/3. On attack, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it's not a unit, you give an experience token to another unit. Again, I told you there are not a lot of cards that hand out experience tokens. This card does the trick, and you have a lot of non-unit cards in your deck. You have a lot of upgrades and event cards. If you're lucky enough to flip the top of the card and you get to see it, if it's a non-unit, give an experience token to something. If you give an experience token on top of your other experience tokens, you can really pile it up. This card, if your opponent does not deal with it, can get out of hand pretty quickly, and I do like this card. So, what was that? 2 copies of that card, excuse me. Next up, 2 copies of Protector of the Throne. This is a 3-drop, 2/4, has Sentinel. These cards from the new set that have like a lot of these Protector Sentinels that are really weak, with experience tokens, they become so much better. A 3/5 that your opponent has to attack into is so much better than a 2/4. Believe it or not, that extra 1/1, great target for that experience token. It's a 2/4. Hit the experience token with it, becomes a 3/5. That is very, very good and very powerful. 3 power can get rid of a lot of the weaker 1, 2, 3, and sometimes even 4 drops that are really annoying that you don't want your opponent smacking into you for hitting you for face. This can do the trick by having a lot of these Sentinel cards. Next up is my personal favorite of the deck. This is a 3-drop Village Protectors from the new set. It's a 2/2 Sentinel and Shielded. This is an excellent target for your experience tokens. A 3-drop that becomes a 3/3 with Shield and Sentinel. Your opponent has to deal with it. It's gonna have to attack to it at least 2 or 3 times minimum just to get rid of it. This is also a great card to put Resilient on it and really boost this card up, making it like a 3/6. Oh my god, your opponent has to deal with it. It becomes a really giant pain in the ass for your opponent. Definitely 3 copies of this. Next up is an event card. This is a 1-drop repair, pretty self-explanatory. Heal 3 damage from unit or base. Love this card, pretty much a great card for a 1-drop that's really cheap. Put it out there, heal your base or heal a certain unit that maybe you want out a little bit longer, like, I don't know, any one of these cards that have Sentinel. Pretty good. Next up, it binds all things. This is a 2-drop. Heal up to 3 damage from a unit if you control a force unit, which is either Rey or Yoda. You may deal that much damage to another unit. Pretty strong card right there. If it just said heal 3 damage from a unit, that right there is good enough for me. But then if you are fortunate enough to maybe hit Rey with this or hit Yoda with this, you know, now you're doing that much damage to another unit. It acts as like a little bit of removal. We don't have a lot of removal, so we need like some cheeky cards that kind of fit that mold. This fits it. 2 copies of that one. Next up, 1 copy of Takedown. Defeat a unit with 5 or less remaining HP. 1 copy of that is just fine. Next up is 2 copies of a 4-drop event. The Force is with me. Choose a friendly unit, give 2 experience tokens to it. That right there is good enough for me. But then we have an extra ability. If you control a Force unit, Rey or Yoda, also give a shield token to the chosen unit. You may attack with the chosen unit. Again, acts as a cheeky way of using removal. If you hit Rey with this, it's going to be a very good card. She's going to get boosted for 2 experience tokens, so she's getting 2 +1/+1 tokens. She's a Force unit, so you're also going to give it shield, and then you're smacking it into something with it as well. It acts as a quasi removal. I like this card a lot. 2 copies of it as well. 2 copies of Rose Tico. This is also from the new set. It's a 2/6 for a 4-drop. Has shielded, so pretty good, and she has 2 or less power, so this can also you can see a good target for your experience tokens. But it has on attack, you may defeat a shield token on a friendly unit. If you do, give 2 experience tokens to that unit. We just saw the Forces with me. If you're able to summon, if you're really in late game, I'm talking if you really are at this late stage and you really have 8 resources and you're fortunate enough to do this combo, the Forces with me and then Rose, you should win game at that point. Next up is 2 copies of a 2-drop Clan Ren Rescuer for a 1/2. When played, give an experience unit to a token. Again, you're giving out more experience tokens, which is what you want. There's some really good synergy you guys are starting to see now with Rey. It's also a 2-drop, very cost efficient, very cheap, and it's a 1 power, so you can also give an experience unit to it as well with Rey. 2 copies of that one. Now we get into a little more of the removal. 3 copies of Vanquish. Just so you guys know, hold on to this card. If you're playing with this deck, you have to hold on to these cards right here. The actual like point blank removal spells. Hold on to it. Wait for a big threat. Wait for something with Sentinel. Wait for something with Shielded. This is the target. Hold on to them. Vanquish. 3 copies. That's a must because we don't run a lot of removal and we don't run a lot of control in this deck. So this is the best way to really hone in on your opponent. And then we also have one copy of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a Force unit. It's also a big body. So if you flip over Rey, then you can play Obi-Wan. Again, you should win at that point. It is a Sentinel unit. It's a Force 6. And then it has, of course, when defeated, give 2 experience tokens to another friendly unit. If it's a Force unit, draw a card. So once again, if Obi-Wan gets defeated, you're handing out 2 experience tokens. Another good synergy piece with Rey. And last but not least, 2 copies of a 5-drop Vigilant Honor Guards from the first set. It's a Force 6 with Sentinel as long as it hasn't been hit. The second this unit gets hit, it loses Sentinel. That is the deck in and of itself. It's actually a pretty good deck, really cost efficient. I'm going to go ahead and show you the full breakdown of this deck. So here is the full breakdown of the deck. We have 9 ground units, 6 base units, 5 events, and 3 upgrades. Pretty good. All in all, this deck is currently going to run you $16.43. That is not accurate. Again, let me state that one more time. $16.43. What that actually is the cards from the first set. Second chance is about $10, so we're already at 26. Add in the rest of the cards, which I believe they're all under $1. They're actually more like under 50 cents, really. This deck is actually going to run you anywhere between, I would give or take, $29 to $34, give or take. It's still a very cost-efficient deck, and it is under that $40 budget, so this is a great deck. Now, if you really wanted to take this deck to the next level, if you wanted to add some cards that would really give it some much-needed firepower and actually hold its own against the current meta and some competitive decks, these are the cards you would add. Okay, so we're now at TCG Player. Here are at least 10 cards that I would add to the deck that would give it some much-needed firepower. Starting off with Luke Skywalker, this would be an absolute must. You would absolutely add this card to the raid deck, and it would give it some immediate much-needed firepower. First off, he's a 7-drop, he's a 6/7, he has Restore 3 just like Rey. He also has give an enemy unit -3/-3 for this phase. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give that enemy unit -6/-6. Again, working as like a cheeky way of removal, but really you just want to play this, debuff something very strong, and then immediately smack in the face with Luke Skywalker, and also to Restoring 3. It's just really powerful. If you think about all the cards that have Restore in this deck too, between the Space Unit, the Arc 170, Yoda, Rey, the Twin Cloud Pod Racers, then you add Luke Skywalker, I mean, and the repair units, you have a lot of ways of like pretty much healing yourself. If you know, an opponent can actually hit you for like 40-50 damage, and you can actually withstand all of that just by the amount of Restore we have in this deck. I would at least add anywhere between 2 to 3 copies of this, and you guys can see the price right here. It's $35.99 just for a lightly played version. I believe a near mint runs about, $36, $37. So this is a very expensive card. 2 copies, it's going to be running you about $70. The next one would be immediately 3 copies of this would be added into the deck. We're already running Mono Blue, so why not add one of the most powerful Mono Blue event cards in the game? That is Vigilance. It runs at $32, so 3 copies is going to run you about $90, $90 to $100, which is insane, but you're going to see why here in a second. It's a 4-drop, and it has choose 2 in any order. Discard 6 cards from your opponent's deck, heal 5 damage from a base, defeat a unit with 3 or less HP, or give a shield token to a unit. I mean, healing 5 and defeating a unit right there is unbelievably powerful. For a 4-drop, that's unbelievable. Healing 5 and giving a shield unit to a token, that's even powerful. Defeating a unit with 3 or less and giving a shield token, that's powerful. These bottom 3 abilities right here are powerful in itself. Choosing 2 out of the 3 is unbelievable. I would never see a reason to do the whole top one, discard 6, unless we had a card that says if you discard X amount of cards, you deal X amount of damage to your opponent or something like that. Then that would make this card even more powerful. But just those bottom 3, in my opinion, are the ones you're always going to choose. And they all have amazing synergy with a mono blue deck such as Rey. This would give this deck unbelievable firepower. 3 copies of this would be a must, and that would run you about $90 plus. So you can see why this would be breaking the bank. Next one is Kylo Ren, which is very powerful because it says while playing this unit, ignore the villainy aspect penalty if you control Rey. He's a 6-drop, Rey's a 6-drop. Flip over Rey, play Kylo Ren, boom, you ignore the penalty aspect. I mean, and then on attack, give a unit +2, +0 for this phase. If it's a non-villainy unit, also give an experience token to it. So it has great synergy with Rey. Probably about 1 or 2 copies of this, and you can see the price, $16.25. Next up, I would actually buff up the Second Chance. I'd probably add another copy of Second Chance in the deck. You can see it's a $10 card. So now we have 2 copies, but just adding that extra 1 copy is going to run you another $10. And the last one is an honorable mention, which is Rey herself, Keeping the Past, a 5-drop for a 4/7. This, ignore this top part because we're not, we have a Kylo Ren, but if you're fortunate to somehow play Kylo Ren and her, you really should win the game at that point. But it has the same thing as the Kylo Ren thing. Ignore the heroism aspect penalty. If you control, doesn't matter. On attack, you may heal 2 damage from a unit. If it's a non-heroism unit, give a shield token to it. This is definitely a card you probably want to add, even if you're not playing Kylo Ren, because it has good synergy with Rey. It's also another Force unit, so you can have, there's more cards for your Force, and same thing with Kylo Ren, he's a Force unit as well. So keep an on theme with some Force units. You guys can see, again, if you were to run, let's say 2 of these, 3 of these, that's 5, 2 copies of Kylo Ren, that's 7, 1 copy of Second Chance, that's 8, and 2 copies of Rey. Those are your 10 cards that you would add to this already pretty decent Rey deck. That would give it some much needed firepower, and you could probably compete with some of your meta decks. That's going to do it for this deck profile. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We're going to be doing some more deck profiles as I look through all the leaders from the new set, and we're just going to keep playing with all of these. I will actually be playing with this deck, and I'll drop that video Saturday and Sunday to actually show you some gameplay with this deck. So I hope you guys are excited about that. If you are and you made it this far in the video, please hit that thumbs up button for me. I really would appreciate it. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to also comment this video if you maybe think that, hey, some of these cards are not, well with it. Maybe there's some other cards that I might have missed that would have gone really well with this budget deck profile. If there are, comment down below on all that stuff. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys next time.